Hello, I'm Zach Conn, host of 50 Minutes. Today I'm here with Nick Morris, CEO of Morris Architecture, and we are interviewing today for the new building on Fairfield University's campus.
Good to be here, Zach.
All right, Nick, what are you here to show us today?
Today I brought a scaled down model of the building that I intend to build. For purposes of practicality, our model building is made out of index cards.
Looks amazing. I've never seen such a well-built tower. How was it created in order to reach the required height, and how were the cards configured?
You know, Zach, my team decided to use 4 levels of index cards. The index cards that we used were configured in the short way, rolled up in the shape of a triangle. In total, we used 14 cards and an additional quarter of a card.
A very good idea. Seems like something even I could come up with myself. I also see that your cards are rolled up. How did you fold and roll your cards in order to achieve the most strength and stability?
You know, Zach, to achieve the most strength and stability, we rolled the index cards tightly around a pencil and then wrapped rubber bands around them. We then let them sit in order to solidify the shape of the cards.
Very interesting. A great technique too. One of the requirements stated that you can only have a certain amount of cards. How did your group minimize card usage?
Our design minimizes card usage by using quarters of index cards as barriers in between the rolled up cards. If we had used one index card for each barrier on each level of the tower, we would have used 6 3/4 more cards than if we had cut them into quarters like we did.
What parts of the design turned out as well as you thought they would? And were there any parts of the design that did not turn out as planned? And did you need to improvise and change the planned design at all?
Good question, Zach. Well, the part of the design that was as successful as we predicted was the triangle configuration of the 3 cards on each level. This was because it allowed us to have the least possible cards with the greatest possible strength. The part of our initial design that did not live up to the expectations was the spacing of the index cards. At first, our triangle base was not very spaced out, which led to a lack of stability. After noticing this flaw, we decided to space out the base of the tower.
Nick, I have to inquire. I see that you have not doubled or even tripled any of your cards. Do you believe that it is worth jeopardizing the possible ratio in order to have more weight?
Indeed, Zach. We did not use double or triple cards in our design. My team determined that this was the smartest and most efficient method of card usage because the ratio between weight and cards would be too low if the double or triple cards were used. If the method of doubling the cards were used, the tower would consist of 26 1/4 cards, which means that to get a perfect score, the tower would need to support approximately 160 newtons. For the method we used, single cards, 14 1/4 cards make up the tower, which means that the tower would need to support about 85 newtons to receive a perfect score.
Do you anticipate having any difficulties on testing day?
You know, Zach, we are pretty confident in our design. That being said, we must keep in mind the possibility of failure. We are aware of the fact that mistakes can be made while setting up the card tower, which could potentially lead to failure on testing day.
Of course. I do realize how you use the shorter cards in your design. Do you believe it is smarter to roll the cards the short way instead of the long way? I know there are different up and downs to the shorter and longer cards.
Zach, after much consideration, my team decided to use the design of rolling the cards in the short way. We decided to use this method because, in general, short cards do a better job of holding weight. This is because they are more stable. Their center of gravity is lower to the ground.
I do realize how much physics goes into a project like this, from weight distribution to the relationship between normal force and the force of gravity, which can be seen in the textbooks. We notice this relationship because the weight of all the textbooks, or the force of gravity, is always equal to the normal force as long as the tower is standing. The point when the weight exceeds the amount of normal force the cards provide, the tower will collapse.
That's an excellent point, Zach. I completely agree. My business, architecture, is for the most part based on simple physics lessons learned in the 10th grade. We work with these principles all the time when creating new buildings.
Overall, I truly enjoyed this interview, and I feel really confident about your product. What do you have to say about the job? Why has Fairfield Prep made a good choice in hiring you?
To conclude with our interview here, Zach, I believe that Fairfield Prep made the right choice in hiring me because my team used the least amount of materials while maintaining sufficient strength in our tower. This allows for the building to function well while still being cost effective for the school.
It's been an honor to have you on the show today, Nick, and it's been an honor to work with Prep to interview such a high quality candidate. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me today, Zach.